People only speak of fire when it blazes high, when it burns down houses, forests, cities. But rarely do they speak of fire when it's just a flicker in the dark, a fragile breath on dry wood, a spark that hides behind the ribs. Qian was such a fire. A flame shaped by silence, sharpened by shame, and fed by the hunger to be respected. He was once known as a warrior, but not just any warrior. He was the kind that made grown men forget their names, the kind whose anger could be felt in the air before he even entered the room. He was a legend of sharp steel and sharper pride. His name echoed like thunder, but in every shout of victory, there was an ache. He carried it like a second sword. Qian didn't just fight battles. He fought glances, sarcasm, rumors. He fought to be seen, to be understood, to be worthy. And every time he won, the fire inside grew. Not warm, but wild. Not light, but consuming. He wore his rage like armor. It gave him speed, certainty, strength, or so he thought. But the truth about fire is this: it burns both ways. It eats what's outside, yes, but it also devours its own source. It happened during the summer of his 37th year. The sun hung low and harsh, and the marketplace stank of sweat and old rice. Qian stood at a stall buying incense for his mother's memorial, her death still fresh in the bones of his heart. A drunken merchant, a former rival once humiliated in a duel, spotted him. With liquor breath and rotting teeth, the man spat a cruel line about Qian's mother, mocking her death with twisted laughter. The air changed. People froze. They had seen this before, someone lighting a match too close to a powder keg. Qian's hand moved to his sword, eyes sharp, breath held. The fire was rising. His fingers curled around the hilt. But then, a hand touched his shoulder. Not forcefully. Not threatening. Just gently. It was an old man, ragged and thin, dressed in cloth that looked like it had forgotten the color of time. His eyes were pale like clouded water, but when they looked into Qian, it was as if he saw not his face, but the storm beneath it. "If they call you a dog," the old man said softly, "do you bark because it is false, or because you fear it might be true?" The words were not loud, but they landed like thunder, not on Qian's pride, but on something deeper, something raw. His fingers loosened. The sword stayed in its sheath. The fire flickered uncertain. The crowd began to dissolve, like fog finding wind. The old man did not wait. He finished his bowl of rice and walked away. Qian stood still, as if something invisible had been cut loose from within. He didn't speak. He didn't think. He simply followed. They climbed a mountain. Not the kind that requires ropes or maps, but the kind that demands silence, detachment, and the willingness to leave everything behind. On the first day, Qian was given no name. He was not called master, not student, not even brother. He was just you. In the monastery built of cold stone and older prayers, no one asked him what he had done. No one cared. His history was ash here. He carried buckets before dawn, chopped firewood with a dull blade, and cleaned floor tiles with bare hands. While other disciples meditated or debated scripture, Qian was sent to scrub moss or dig trenches. When the snow came, he was given no fire, only a blanket and the chance to breathe in the cold. No one praised him. No one pitied him. And that was the second lesson: when you are not seen, what remains of you? One afternoon, while hauling water, a young monk, proud and loud, spat near his feet and mocked him. "You're not here to learn," the boy sneered. "You're here to serve." In his old life, Qian would have broken bones for less. But now he simply looked at the boy's eyes, then at the water in his bucket, then at the stone beneath them both. And he said nothing. That evening, the old master approached as Qian swept leaves. "You didn't react?" the old man said. Qian didn't look up. "What would I be protecting?" The master smiled. "Over the months, something changed, not suddenly, but like ice melting in a cave. Qian's anger no longer had places to live. The world stopped offering him mirrors. Without roles, without enemies, without the identity of warrior or victim, he became something else. Not empty but quiet. Like a pond that no longer needs to reflect. And then, one night, the storm returned, but from outside. A bandit, hungry and half-mad, stumbled into the monastery, wielding a butcher's knife and frothing curses. He demanded silver, wine, flesh, anything to fill the void inside him. The monks scattered. Qian, who was by the stream washing roots, did not move. The bandit stormed up and pressed the knife against Qian's throat. The cold metal trembled. His breath stank of desperation. "Give me something," he roared. Qian met his eyes. "I have nothing left," he said calmly. "Even fear has left me." The bandit blinked. "I've died many times," Qian continued. "Not in body but in pride. In identity. In every expectation I once carried. What you see now is what remained after the burning." The bandit's hand dropped. The knife clattered to the stones. And he ran, not from Qian, but from something he saw in Qian's eyes, a silence that made his own madness unbearable. That night, Qian sat beneath a sky full of stars. The old master joined him, no words at first. Only breath, only presence. Then, after a while, the master said, "You are no longer a warrior." Qian nodded. "Because I am no longer a wound." He left the next morning. No ceremony. No farewell. Just footsteps fading into dew. He carried no bag, no map, no name. He walked through villages like smoke, seen, but untouched. When people insulted him, he smiled. When they ignored him, he smiled. When they praised him, he smiled. And people began calling him the man who forgot how to burn. Not because he had no fire, but because he no longer fed it. One day, a child asked him, "What do you do when someone calls you worthless?" Qian picked up a dry leaf from the ground. "What is this?" "A dead leaf," the child said. "Does it complain?" "No." "Why?" The child thought for a while. "Because it has already returned to the earth?" Qian smiled. "And the earth does not burn." Years passed. Word of Qian reached a great general who sought him out, wanting to test if the fire in the infamous warrior had truly died. The general's men arrived with gifts, titles, honors. They promised Qian a place at the court, a seat among the elite, a legacy. Qian pointed at the ashes of an old fire pit. "You cannot reignite what has already become dust." There was no final battle. No temple built in his name. Only stories, whispers. That he was seen walking into storms without a coat. That wild dogs never barked at him. That when he stared into a man's eyes, the man forgot why he was angry. That once, during a flood, he sat beneath a tree as the waters rose, not moved by fear, not moved at all. The last anyone saw of him, he was seated by a river, eyes half closed, watching the moon swim in the current. Behind him, etched into a stone, were the only words he ever left behind. "He who no longer reacts has already stepped out of hell."